Hey, Shannon,
Yes?
how many times does a puppy grow up?
Once?
That's right. What does that mean?
You better do it right the first time.
And that's what we're talking about today on the McCann Dogs podcast.
Welcome back. Hey, Swanee,
Shannon,
how many puppies have you raised?
myself as an adult, I've had 7 dogs that I've raised as my own.
Okay.
And I've also had two other ones that I've raised for other. One was for an accelerant dog, and one was for a friend. And then I've had puppies come and stay at my house for like a month or so, the odd time.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I've given, that the breeder has taken back because I've been doing some socializing in that. So,
Gotcha.
over 10 little puppies.
Okay.
But 7 right from birth till, not birth, right from bringing home until they pass away.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you've had some time to get used to it and to develop some systems.
Right.
And to do it better, I would presume.
Yes, definitely better.
Although we're getting old, we're starting into that decline where things are just going to start getting worse for us. But no, just kidding. So my other question is, how often do you think those puppies got to be raised?
They only got to be raised once.
Yeah.
Yep,
So what does that mean?
That we should do it right the first time because
Get it right the first time.
Yep.
That's the main thing. Ooh.
I don't know the song, but
That's Billy Joel. And you know
yeah.
what? I'm really excited because I got Billy Joel tickets.
You were telling, yes.
Now
Yeah.
everybody
Is
knows.
that March?
It will be in March of 2025 that he will be in Toronto singing Just For Me and my sister.
So if you're looking for Shannon, go to the Billy Joel concert
Yep.
and you'll see her. You'll
That's
see her.
exciting.
Yep, she'll be the one standing on her seat, whipping her T-shirt around.
That's what happens at all Billy Joel concerts. Every single one of them. All right. Enough about Billy Joel, but if you're going to see Billy Joel, let me know in the comments. I'm excited about that.
So I think what you're getting at is
Do you finally understand what I'm getting
I
at
think
after all
you're
these years?
right.
I think it's like the toughest thing.
I think we're going to be talking a little bit about raising puppies and doing things right from the start.
Good idea.
So we don't have to go back and
Exactly.
fix things.
Exactly.
Yes.
And truly, I mean, you can go back and fix things. There's
no
no
doubt,
truth
yes.
to that adage about you can't teach old dogs new tricks. You absolutely can. If you put the time and the energy into it, you can teach any dog anything. And
Right.
if you, I should add know-how. So know-how is a really important thing too, because if you're making mistakes while you're raising those puppies, it is making your life a little bit more difficult. And if you
Right.
continually make mistakes, well, how do you get to the end point of that? So what is your idea of, what would you say are the main ingredients in raising the perfect puppy?
Well, I think one thing is being prepared. So having everything I need, having plans in place, and just being aware of puppies and how they
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
I also am going to always make sure that I'm not allowing the puppy to develop bad habits because at the time they're cute.
Yeah.
So it's very cute when an 8-pound puppy jumps all over your legs. But when that puppy is 10 months old and weighs 80 pounds, it's not so cute.
It's not so cute.
So I'm going to make sure I'm not allowing the puppy to do behavior that I wouldn't allow the adult dog to
Yeah.
do. So
Yeah.
I'm treating the little puppy as I would what I want to see as the adult.
Yeah.
So that way I'm starting off with good things.
Absolutely. And you talk about that a lot on the podcast. I know you bring that up a lot, and it is such an important point. But let's break down some of these things. So in terms of preparation, what are some of the things that you want to prepare? And without getting into too much detail, because this will be a 10-hour podcast, but I don't think people could handle us for 10
Pull
hours.
up a pillow and a snack. We're here for 10 hours.
On today's podcast, we'll be taking a nap midway through the show. We're old. We need naps.
At least we have couches. Yes.
We do have couches.
Yes.
That's nice.
Yes.
Okay, so let's break down. What does preparation for a puppy look like to you?
I want to make sure I have all the right equipment, and I've maybe done some pre-reading or taken a course like our puppy prep course, just to give me an idea of routines, how to get everything set up, how to house break, how to stop nipping.
Yeah.
So I'm not suddenly the puppy nipping me and me saying, I have no clue how to solve this.
Right.
I want to be ahead of myself so I know how to react when puppies present puppy behavior.
That certainly seems like a helpful plan. So I want to break this down a little bit more, though. So we've got all the things that we need. We've got this plan in front of us. How did you go about getting that plan for your training, for house training, for nipping, for crate training, etc.?
So long before I get my puppy, I'm going to be doing my homework.
Okay.
I'm going to, talk to the breeder. I'm going to talk to other people I know who've owned a dog. I might look for some good resources in the form of books or maybe articles. And I'm going to maybe talk to some dog trainers. I'm going to contact my local dog training school and say, I'm bringing home a puppy. What do you guys recommend?
Yeah.
And, a lot of dog training places, including us, we offer like pre-courses, like how to prepare yourself, what to do.
Yeah.
So
I'll talk about that just a little bit because it is a really useful tool. We have a puppy prep guide in our online school, and that puppy prep guide takes you through. It's a really, really great resource, especially for your first-time dog owners, because it takes you through everything that you need to purchase for your puppy. And we also deep dive in that into different things that we've experienced in the equipment over the years. So we give you our thoughts on the best possible equipment that you can buy, things that you'll only have to buy once, as long as you don't let your puppy destroy them, but things that are good quality, things that are going to do the job they need to do, and we explain why with those things. We also talk about setting up your house. We talk about looking for dangers in the yard, in the house, etc., and how to make sure you're setting up a safe space. And then finally, we talk about a ton of the things that you want to do your puppy training right. And that means dispelling a lot of the myths that come along with puppies. And I think that a lot of these myths get perpetuated ad nauseum through social media.
Yes.
And I worry tremendously about the person who goes to social media groups, for example, Facebook groups, asks their advice and gets a million different opinions from a million different people. How do they break that down? How do they possibly choose the right method for their puppy from a bunch of people who are not experts on the subject in any way, shape, or form? They're just people who have maybe experienced a little bit with dogs before, or maybe not.
Right,
you know, and we get a lot of people offering advice on our different channels that we think, oh my goodness, how on the earth did this person come to this advice? And we can see a million different ways that that advice is probably going to come back to bite you in the butt.
Right.
But of course, it's like, okay, the world is the Wild West these days. Yes. So how am I going to break through in this and say, you know what, that's really poor advice? So,
yes. And people are often looking for easy fixes. Yes. They don't want to roll up their sleeves and do the hard work.
Yeah, because I don't want to either. It's too much work.
Right.
No, I'm just kidding.
It's the hard work.
I enjoy that work.
Yes, I do too. Yes. The hard work is what gets you to have that great dog. When you see somebody, you're on a hike and you meet somebody with that great dog, chances are they didn't take the easy way out.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't look for easy fixes. They've put in that hard work.
Yeah. Well, and I find that we've talked about this quite a bit, actually. Social media itself these days, you see these snippets, right? So you either see like the TikTok videos where the dogs are being given really human qualities and they're funny, but they're also shifting our culture a little bit and shifting us away from what we need to do to help dogs and into this space where we're incredibly lost over what a dog actually is anymore. We've made them into a little human in our mind instead of a little dog.
Right. And almost not even a human, because I don't think a lot of people would treat their children the way they... like I saw a post today on Facebook, and it was of a Labrador puppy, and it looked like maybe 3 months old. And the lady's driving in her car, and the puppy is sitting on the front seat of her car, and she's holding the puppy's paw as they drive. And she's driving, holding the puppy's paw, and basically the caption is, he needs the comfort of me holding his paw while we drive.
Oh my gosh, how did she take a picture of this? That's what I always want to know. How did you get this picture?
I don't know how she got the picture, actually, but it just was a close-up of her hand. You could see the middle console of the car, her hand holding this puppy's paw. And I thought, wow, would you put your 2-month-old child in the front seat without any seatbelt or car seat in front of you. No, you would never do that. Why would you do that to a puppy?
Yeah. Yikes. Yikes. Yeah, that's a little bit.
And 2 hands on the wheel, folks. 2 hands
10
on the wheel.
10 and 2.
Yes.
Or actually, I think there's 3 and 9 now, too.
Is
they
it?
talk
Oh, yeah.
about you like that being a comfortable position as well. I wonder if wheels have changed over the years in
I don't
cars.
know. I don't know. 10 and 2. If you've recently taken driver's lessons, let us know.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. I did hear something about 3 and 9 now being okay, but it's always been 10 and 2 from my education in driving way back when.
Your niece will be driving soon, so
gosh,
we'll get her. We'll get her.
Don't remind me. It's so scary. It's
so
scary.
Yeah.
I can't believe she's as old as she is.
Yes, but back. Sorry, yeah. I'm regressing. I'm regressing. Yes. I'm
Regressing
sorry
in
she's
more
gotten
ways
so
than
old,
ways.
Shannon. Yeah. I was just thinking back to that picture of that puppy on the seat. And when I read some of the comments, I was drinking my coffee this morning and looking for entertainment, and people were agreeing and deciding it was the right thing to do.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so you know what? Just because we're talking about this, let's break this down why we're saying this is not the right thing to do, because people are probably wondering, like, what are all the nuances in this situation that I'm maybe not aware of, because hearing that as a pet person, I might hear that and think, oh, that's so cute. But you know what? Let's break this down a bit. And it sort of does illustrate what I was going to say about social media as well, in that we're seeing these tiny little snippets of lives. And a lot of the times they lead us way off base.
Yes.
So if I am driving in a vehicle, I want to make sure that every passenger in that vehicle is safe in the way that...
Even the spiders in your vehicle.
Even the spiders. I make sure that they have little tiny spider crates.
Okay, spiders, out of your hiding spots and into your crates.
All right. So you don't necessarily have to have a dog crate in your car. It is certainly one of the safest ways to travel. And dog crates have come a long way these days as well, in that there are options that are crash tested very nicely.
Yes.
This is something that has been coming for a long time to North America, and lately there's so many options that it's making me happy to think about what's driving this, right? What's driving the idea that there needs to be safe options in crates? Well, obviously it's people buying more crates in their car.
Right.
So that's fabulous. And that is a properly bolted down, crash tested crate. Could save your dog's life one day.
Yes.
So that is one of the reasons, right? A dog anywhere in the vehicle loose without any sort of protection, be it a crate or a harness that they are strapped in with. There's very few crash tested harnesses. So do your homework in that respect. But it's better than nothing, right? It at least will protect your dog in the fender bender sort of situations. Right. You know, if you have to hit the brakes hard, your dog becomes a projectile in that vehicle. And if they're sitting on the front seat and you slam on the brakes, they're either hitting the dashboard or they're going through the window, you know? And this is not a pleasant thing.
No,
this is not a pleasant way to think about our 2-month-old puppy who's insecure in the car. It takes a lot more work to get them used to being a polite traveler in the car. It takes a lot more frustration potentially if they're still making noise in the crate to have them travel safely in a crate in the car. But ultimately, if it saves their life, you know, nobody gets in an accident and goes, oh yeah, I knew that was going to happen.
Right. Yes.
It happens when we least expect it.
Yes.
So it could be any time, right?
Even if your dog is not killed outright, it could be horrifically injured and have injuries for life.
Yeah.
Or it could get loose and run off and get hit by another car or lost for good.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's, your dog needs to be secured in a car. That's
absolutely.
Yes. I shudder when I see dogs riding in people's laps or in the front seat with their heads out the window. Yeah. You know, that interferes with the driver too.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. Yes. Well, and oh my gosh, flying debris and whatnot, heads out the window. All it takes is a bug and your dog loses their eye.
Right.
So,
yes.
like, that's a horrific injury for.
And another thing I want to mention about that too.
Yeah.
Holding a dog's paw does not give it comfort. That's ridiculous.
I was going to get into the anthropomorphization.
That's ridiculous.
I was going to get into that. Yeah. You know, it truly is. I mean, on one level, it's even a poor thing to think I'm going to hold this puppy's paw every time it gets into the vehicle, because why would you want to leave it in that state then?
Right.
You know, even if this was actually true, this holding the paw brings my puppy comfort, wouldn't you want to strengthen them so that they go, oh, I don't need that comfort in the car. Hey, I can handle this car all on my own.
Yes.
Look at how strong I am.
Yes.
Like,
you want to teach them confident independence.
Yeah, I don't want to hold my dog as a wimpy dog for the eternity of their life and make up these stories that they are insecure in this situation. Like, yeah, it's a new situation. It's probably going to be something that's a little bit uncertain for the dog, which is exactly why giving it structure instead of just plunking it in the front seat and going for a ride, giving it structure is going to help it gain security, which is going to help it go, okay, the car ride is no big deal. Right. And this anthropomorphization of me holding his paw or holding your hand to bring you comfort, I mean, that's just not how dogs get comfort, right?
No, so, not at all.
Yeah, take some time. Introduce the crate in the car. Make your dog comfortable with the safe ride in the car by doing things that speak to the dog. And it will make progress in those situations. So
yes, yeah, we need to do our dogs justice.
We do, yes. Absolutely.
And they're incredible creatures.
Yes,
they're not humans; they're dogs. And I think I've read why have I lost the word? A word. I've read a book. I read a quote that
said, newspaper, a sentence, a letter.
I've read a quote that we do a great injustice to the dog by calling them a human.
Oh yes, incredibly,
right,
incredibly so. They shine as dogs,
right?
Yeah, there's that.
Like I wouldn't want a whole bunch of aliens to abduct me and then pretend I'm a little alien. It's like, no, I'm a human. I'm not a little alien.
Look at the little alien not eating their Soylent Green. Yes. I mean, the whole reason that we love our dogs and we bring them into our lives is that they are dogs.
Right.
And they're different than humans, which is what makes them so special. And like, trying to suggest that they're humans. I mean, it does us a disservice as well. But the other thing that is, we actually talked a lot about anthropomorphization on last week's episode.
Yes.
And
our rant is still on.
We haven't stopped ranting. Oh my gosh. I thought it was such a good episode. When we finished it, I was like, you know what? That was a really great episode for taking the quality of a human and wanting to always compare other things to humans and sort of putting it in perspective into how it hurts and as well how it works to our advantage sometimes to draw these comparisons so that we can go, oh yeah, that doesn't make sense the way I was doing that with my dog. So if you're looking for some help with anthropomorphization and where dogs actually fit, it was a really good episode. But the other thing that I was going to say about social media is that we get these glimpses, right? So as social media people, we're not burning our toast and then putting a picture of that on social media and going, look at my magical dinner I'm having tonight, right? Right. Instead, we take the pictures of the things that we put lots of work into. And like, I'm not a cook and I'm not a baker, but if I made a cake right now, I'd be really proud of that. And if it looked nice, I'd snap a picture and put it on social media so people could be like, oh, look at Shannon.
Wow.
She's a really good cake maker.
And she's got the time to make that cake.
Even though I have no skills when it comes to cake.
So Shannon's in stock photo, cake.
I'm buying photos off Shutterstock to pretend that I can bake on Facebook. Yeah. But basically, the idea is that we put our best on social media, right? If I am doing drills with my dog and I trip over my feet and I fall and it looks messy and awful and my dog's not in good heel position and they're not giving me good attention, I'm probably not posting that on social media. But that's a big part of the process.
Right. Right. That's the majority of the process. Yeah, the messy middle.
Exactly. We don't just curate this beautiful thing out of the blue.
Right.
We start when we're like all thumbs and then we muddle through. And if we make it through that messy middle piece, then we have these beautiful things to show. But the beautiful thing, right? Watching the ballet performance, even if it's Swanee, watching the ballet performance does not show me how much time and effort and falling and wrapped ankles and years and years and years of practice.
Exactly. Yes.
And missing the mark. I almost said failure, but I don't like saying failure. Missing the mark and then picking yourself up and trying again and getting it wrong again and trying again and getting it wrong and then getting closer to getting it right and then finally getting it right and then finally getting it perfect. Right? There's a lot that goes into that.
Yes, there is.
And I see a trend, and it probably did start around social media, but it's hard to trace it back. I see a trend of people who don't want to put in the work.
Right. They want instant gratification.
Absolutely. And as nice as that is, it's not nearly as nice as the accomplished feeling.
Yes. And I get that. I feel that groomers have the same complaint because I often will hear people on both ends, the groomer end, and I'll hear the student end. They have a golden doodle type breed.
Yeah.
And those dogs require professional grooming.
Yeah.
And the person...
And lots of brushing as well.
Yes.
If you think non-shedding means don't brush, you are going to be in for a shaved doodle.
Exactly. So that's what happens is the groomer says to the owner, if you want the big fluffy coated doodle, you need to brush every day and not just brush the top coat. You need to lift and brush from the skin. Yeah. And the people don't want to do that. And then when the groomer shaves them, the person's all angry because they wanted the big fluffy. Yeah. But they didn't put the work in.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. And there are so many opinions about dogs and dog training. There are a million. But every single person who knows anything about dog training will agree on one thing. You're not getting anywhere if you don't do the work.
Yes.
You know, just crossing your fingers and hoping that your dog becomes one of those good old dogs, it's not going to get you there. No. Letting your dog grow up, it's not going to get you there. You know, you need to do some work, you know, just like a child. If we allowed our children to just raise themselves and didn't really put in the work and put in the time, I'm sure everybody can imagine what that looks like, right?
It would be, chaos.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and we'd all have different opinions, of course, about what chaos would be. But there's no question in our minds that if we want to have good children, we do the work, right? Like, did Ty raise himself and become a...
No, I was... No, I guided Ty and coached him through life and, lots of...
a long time,
For a long time, yes. Yeah. Yes.
And with our dogs, they accelerate a little bit quicker because, of course, their lifespans are shorter. So they're developing quicker. But that doesn't mean that the work is not there. And... the whole premise of today's episode being you only get to do it once.
Exactly.
So do it right and make it the easiest thing that you can make it.
Right.
But you're still going to have to put in the work. Even with the easiest puppy in the world, you're still going to have to put in the work.
Yes. I think people are often surprised how much work a puppy can be. So the puppy disrupts your normal schedule. So, most of us, we have a schedule. I have a routine every morning. But when I bring home a puppy...
Is it a dance routine?
It's my life is... Actually, I speak an interpretive dance when I'm not in the podcast.
We have done that before. I'm sorry, carry on.
So, you have your routine, and especially if you have kids, there's a lot to your routine. And suddenly when you bring in a puppy, your whole routine is now disrupted.
Absolutely.
So that's the first thing people have to understand is there's a new normal now when you bring home a puppy. How did your life change when you brought home Levon?
Tremendously. Even though he's one little dog, morning routine especially, I found that for a while I really had to disrupt my morning routine to take care of him and his needs in the morning. Because first off, he needed breakfast, and I didn't want to just give him breakfast. And this might be an extreme example, but I like to use...
You're an extreme gal.
I'm an extreme sort of gal. I like to use my puppy's meals for training. And that breakfast is no different. And I am also a morning person. So I'm at my best in the morning. So that
explains
a lot. By 2 p.m. Useless. No, I'm just kidding. But I want to use my best energy to promote the best in my puppy. So of course I want to use his breakfast to do some training. So initially when he would first wake up, I would take him out, take him to go to the bathroom, of course. Going out into the yard myself at 5 a.m. when I usually get up is not typically the thing I do. I mean, with my adult dogs, I would just open the door and let them go and then go and do what I need to do. Maybe go pee myself, maybe go shower myself, etc. Get their meals ready. Basically, I don't have to babysit them when they're adults. But with a puppy, I'm not just opening the door and letting him out in the yard because that opens the door to all sorts of problems.
Oh, right. That's a Pandora's box.
Absolutely. First off, I want to make sure that he goes to the bathroom when he's outside. I don't know if he's gone to the bathroom if I just let him out in the yard, which is fine for my adult dogs because they're house trained and they self-regulate and they'll ask if they need to go outside because they've got all that education, right? By this point, they understand those systems. They understand how to communicate with me, and they understand that peeing in the yard is right. You know, all the stars align for them with that. But with a puppy, they don't know any of that yet. You know, my puppy doesn't know how to let me out.
Wait, does he now?
Nobody knows how to let me out. It's a closely guarded secret.
I usually just open the door and hold it open wide, and out she goes.
It's a North American secret. Nobody lets me out. All right. So my puppy doesn't know how to ask to get let out. My puppy doesn't know how to identify that they need to go to the bathroom. They don't know that it's wrong to go on the floor. You know, there's so many reasons that my puppy is needy first thing in the morning. So I'm going to take my puppy outside. I'm going to take him out on leash. I'm going to put him down on leash, and I'm going to let him, you know, take his 2 minutes. I usually give my dogs about 2 minutes on average to go to the bathroom because, of course, they have short attention spans.
Do you take a flashlight?
If it's dark.
Yeah, I do too. I go out with a puppy and a flashlight because I want to see if they peed.
If it's 5 a.m. in the yard in the summer, I'm good to go. I actually didn't need to use a flashlight at all with Levon because even when it was dark enough, there was enough light from the light outside, the outside light that I would turn on. But if I couldn't see, and if it was really dark, if I was raising a puppy right now, there wouldn't be enough light cast in the yard right now because it doesn't even get light out in this corner of Ontario until 7:15 this morning. I think it was finally like, okay, there's some light in the sky. That's nice, but I'm up way earlier than that. But yeah, I mean, I need to make sure he goes. I need to make sure that he doesn't go, I know that, so that I'm not bringing him inside and then he has an accident in the house.
Being caught off guard, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. If he doesn't go, then I'm going to bring him inside. I'm going to tuck him back in his crate while I do all my other stuff, right? I'm not going to...
A lot of times time is precious in the morning.
Absolutely.
Like you got to get to work, you got to get the kids breakfast. There's so much to do. So let's make sure that puppy is empty and ready to go. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, and we're always so keen to move on to the next thing. So mine would be training at that point, right? So I bring my puppy inside. Now I'm going to feed breakfast. So now I'm training, and I don't want my puppy stopping and having an accident midway through training. I mean, it's a better time for him to have an accident than other times, but it's still not ideal. And it's not ideal that he has accidents anyways. So I want to make sure that I know, okay, I'm heading into this. He's got an empty bladder, empty bowels. We're good to go. I'm going to be able to do my training without worrying about that. So, and without worrying about looking for any sort of signs as well that he needs to go to the bathroom. Whereas if he hasn't gone outside and I decide to do my training, I know he hasn't gone, so I'm watching him like a hawk to see as soon as he disengages and starts sniffing towards the floor or anything like that. Oh, I think you might need to go, and I'm going to run him outside at that point. So it prepares me as well if I'm really aware of what has happened when my dog goes out in the yard.
When do you start to churn the fresh butter for your cinnamon rolls?
That's by 6.
Because I know that's one of your morning routines.
Oh, yeah. Cook Shannon needs to. Yeah, I make my own butter. I'm not buying
and fresh
butter.
cinnamon rolls every morning. With grated cinnamon.
Oh, that sounds really good.
It does. You need to wake up an hour earlier tomorrow morning to do that.
Does cinnamon grow on a tree? Where does cinnamon come from?
A cinnamon tree, I think.
Is it?
Or a cinnamon bush.
A bush?
I don't know. And
cinnamon bush?
I have no idea.
I have no idea. This just occurred to me. I've
lived
no
my
idea. Whole life. I've lived my whole life and I have no idea where cinnamon comes from.
I have no idea. It must be a bush.
Is it natural in that curled form? If you know, throw it in the comments because now I'm really curious.
Yeah, we need to find out more about cinnamon.
I'm probably going to have to Google after this.
Well, obviously you're not growing your own cinnamon for the cinnamon buns.
Now the secret's out.
I'm starting to think those cinnamon buns are from Sobeys.
No, I would never buy store-bought anything. I cook everything from scratch. Oh my gosh. I'm going to be struck dead right now. All righty. Let's get back to dogs.
How about other types of things? So with little puppies, they're so small and cute. So everyone wants to lift them and snuggle and roll around on the floor and wrestle with them. And little puppies nip and bite. They do. Often it doesn't hurt that much. So it's like, oh, look at him. He's biting my arm.
Sometimes it hurts a heck of a lot.
Sometimes it does hurt.
Depends on what type of dog you have.
Right. But especially if, like, say your Uncle Joe comes over.
Oh, good old Uncle Joe.
Yeah. Like he's the worst.
Yeah.
He comes over and he just mauls that puppy and gets the puppy so riled up. Would you allow that to happen?
No, because then when Great Aunt Edna comes over, Ida or Edna?
Ida.
Great Aunt Ida. See,
Yeah, Edna hasn't been by in a
forgot.
while.
No. So when Great Aunt Ida comes over, and she's a little bit older than Uncle Joe. Was it Uncle Joe?
Uncle Joe,
Uncle
yeah.
Joe. She's a little bit older than Uncle Joe. And if the puppy is expecting that when guests come over, it gets to wrestle with them, I have now set Great Aunt Ida up for a bit of a fall on her keister.
Right.
And then I have to take care of Great Aunt Ida because the guilt is going to be tremendous.
Exactly.
So this is just not a good situation. I need all this time to churn my butter and make my cinnamon rolls. So I can't have Great Aunt Ida to take care of.
No.
Yeah.
So we often make little innocent errors with our puppies. And that's a big one is everyone wants to come to visit your new puppy and everyone wants to play with your new puppy.
Yeah.
So the new puppy says, when someone knocks on that door and they come in, I'm the center of attention.
Yeah.
And now it's an expectation and
Yeah.
it follows the puppy through life.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they're 10 months old and we're yelling, no, off. And the puppy's like, I have no clue.
Yeah.
I have no clue.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And it's so unfair to the puppy too to change the rules mid-play on them, right? I always try to explain that puppies don't necessarily know that they should be doing anything different than what they're doing, right? All they're doing, I wouldn't even say it that way. Puppies don't necessarily know. They don't know.
Right.
They don't know. They're just instinctual beings that are following their instincts. And what we need to do as humans is we know better, and we need to take these instincts and we need to help them to develop other behaviors and other habits so that those instincts are no longer the things that are driving their behavior. Because those instincts in our human world, they're going to get them into trouble, right? Chasing squirrels, they're going to end up running towards roads. Chewing up our furniture, we're going to end up upset with that, right? This is what dogs do naturally, though. They scavenge, they chase prey creatures, you know, they chew things, they urinate on things. Like, this is a dog.
Right.
And when being a dog, they are going to make these mistakes, but they're not mistakes in the dog's mind.
No,
That's the thing.
no.
So it's not even like there's this, people often read shame and they know they did it wrong. They know they were wrong in their dogs. They often read this, you know, body language that our dogs show when they see that we're upset over something. And they apply human emotion to it. Oh, he knows that he was wrong when he peed on the floor there. Well, no, probably not, because you probably haven't given him enough supervision for him to really put that connection together, that he needs to go pee outside. And then eventually, when we get to the point where our dogs are sort of unsure about something, they start sneaking away to do it elsewhere because it feels unsafe to them. And instinctually, if a dog has, you know, gotten scolded for an accident on the floor, they might start to sneak around the corner to have that accident. And people go, look, now he's going to hide to do it.
Right.
Well, yeah, but not because he understands it's wrong, because you're scary and because he doesn't want to put himself in that situation where he's going to get scolded and he doesn't understand how to win.
It's like
in
people
that scenario
who hide behind the shed to smoke.
Yeah. There you go. Exactly. Or
They
dogs
know.
that hide behind the shed to smoke.
Right. Exactly. And that's more of a problem.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, a person might understand that's wrong. I'm sneaking this. I shouldn't be doing this. But the dog's not going to understand.
No, the dog
that,
doesn't know.
Right? It's not, that's not the way it goes.
Right.
But humans, we apply these thoughts and this thinking process. And, you know, it just makes your life more difficult because now the dog is not only unsure about where to pee or how to let you know they need to go out to pee, but they're also worried about the act of peeing, right? So here's a dog now that just needed to be house trained and just needed a little bit more information, who's now panicked every time they have to go pee because now they need to find a safe spot where they're not going to get yelled at to go pee. So, you know, setting things up so that you can control how the dog gets the message, and then you can control the outcome of that message, and then you create systems that are contrary to the instinct of the dog, right? The instinct of the dog is to sniff around and find some place that, you know, territorially they want to make smell like them, and they want to void their bladder.
Right.
And in their mind, once that's done, they're right as rain, right? There's nothing wrong inherently with the dog wanting to be a dog.
Right.
We just need to teach them other ways of doing that in our world so they're not peeing all over our house.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we also want to be proactive. So when we're thinking about getting a dog, we're thinking proactively. a lot of people will talk to, like we'll get people call us with puppies that are 6-7 months old, and they'll say, we tried to train them ourselves and it didn't work, and now we need help. And it's much more difficult at that point.
Well, and that's sort of akin to saying, okay, I'm going to wait until my child is 13 because that's teenage year. And then at that point, I'm going to start trying to teach them the basics of life.
Right, yes.
And it's like you have to catch up on so much. You have to right so many wrongs that have been learned, right?
Yes.
Same with the dogs.
Right, yeah.
If they've learned all the wrong things in the interim, then you have to go back from that first.
Right.
So now again, you're changing the rules mid-play. It's just not fair for the dog. But if instead you start right away with them, right? And especially if you are a first-time dog owner, don't go looking for free advice to try to piece together all by yourself out there on the internet. Find a professional, join a professional program, get some solid guidance.
Yes.
Not a bunch of piecemeal that you don't necessarily understand why you would do that instead of that and why that worked when that didn't, et cetera, et cetera. So you're still guessing through it, right?
Right.
So now you've got this 7-month-old dog or 13-year-old teenager that now you're saying, 2 + 5 = fish. Right? It doesn't make sense.
Yes.
It's not going to make sense to you because you don't have the big picture, and it's not going to make sense to the dog because they've already got other established habits in there. So what we need to do is we need to be proactive, as you said. That truly is the biggest point we want to make with today's episode is finding a program that will work for you and not letting all the noise cloud that program.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes. Well, and something similar is we've all seen the DIY shows on TV, like Help, I've Wrecked My House.
Yeah.
Where somebody has gone in and said, you know what, I'm going to put in my own jacuzzi and do all the wiring and plumbing all by myself because here's a YouTube video.
Yeah.
And that man made it look really easy.
Yes. Yeah.
And then they
but
get
that
about...
man that's doing the YouTube video is a professional jacuzzi
Exactly,
installer.
right. And he's not showing you like all the errors he made learning.
Yes, exactly. Oh,
Yes.
that's a good point. I
Right.
like that analogy a lot. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So often I think people will try to, I'll watch this video on how to get my puppy to stop nipping, but there's so many little things missing. And yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. And a lot of it is because there's going to be different reasons that those puppies are nipping.
Right.
There's going to be different tendencies behind those puppies. There's breed tendencies. There's all
Definitely,
sorts of
yes.
things.
Like I didn't approach Honda's nipping to how I approached my Belgian Malinois nipping.
No
it was
kidding.
a very different approach I took.
I would liken my Rottweiler's nipping to a true land shark versus Toller nipping, which is kind of like, it's maybe like a little squirrel with teeth,
Right.
There's a huge difference in that.
Yes.
And the biggest difference is that Quincy, my Rottweiler, was innately rewarded by biting. She loved it because it's in her DNA to love it. Whereas with the Toller, their DNA has a softer mouth. They are supposed to be pretty ready to pick up game and not damage it. That is a quality that breeders are breeding for. So until Levon, I didn't really have a tremendous nipping problem with any of my Tollers. Levon, my goodness, that boy likes to bite. So I've channeled it and it's great now. Like I actually love the quality in him because I teach my dogs how to hold gently anyways, so I can take care of that for my field work stuff. But I like to have a dog that's like, I'm going to tug really hard with you. And I like it when you're like physically rough with me. It's fun.
Right, yes.
I really enjoyed that about my Rottweiler as well. Like it's a fun thing. If you can channel it properly, it's a lot of fun. But of course, when it's displaced, it's not fun.
Yes.
Right.
We get students with Australian cattle dogs, and those dogs are bred to control very tough steers out in big, wide areas.
Yeah.
And those dogs, when they nip and bite, even as a puppy, it's hard.
Yes.
And it's genetically in there.
Yeah. And that dog that is biting you really hard and you're going, oh my gosh, this is awful. That would be a prize dog for somebody who actually needed that dog for the work.
Yes.
And we always need to think about what the bread was dog for,
what the
dog was bred for.
What is my
in
bread
terms
for?
of work, because those are the tendencies that we are going to have to deal with and somehow find an outlet for in breeds like that.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes. Yes. Because we often will get people herding breeds. Well, how do I get the herding out of them?
No, you don't.
No, you have to learn how to control the herding.
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely. And if you really want to, control the herding, you find some way of bringing an outlet to that.
Right, yes.
It's
like Shannon's dancing tendencies. We can't get that out of her.
Tappa.
We cannot get the dance out of Shannon. It would be like having a child that shows artistic, and then you saying, no, I don't want him to have artistic abilities. Like, we would never squash that.
No.
We would,
Yeah.
So same with our dogs. We're not taking out their genetics.
No, we're not. We need to find some way of channeling and helping them to realize that genetic need,
right,
without it being a detriment to us, right? And left unchecked, it does become a detriment, right? If you have an ACD that you don't put the training on and help them understand when it's appropriate to bite, chances are at some point it is going to come back and bite you in the butt, whether it's chasing somebody on a skateboard or a bike and trying to nip at them, et cetera,
right,
whether it is nipping at your kids, whether it's nipping at you.
Right,
I mean, there's so many ways that will come out in a negative tendency if we don't help to channel that drive. So, DIYing some of this stuff, it feels daunting even to think about.
Right, yes.
Right? Like, there's some things that you should DIY in your dog training. Tricks and things like that can be a great thing to DIY. And it's so easy to find good tutorials and things for tricks. There's lots of things that you might find that are fun to do on your own with your dogs, but in terms of building foundation and skills, I would never mess around with that.
Right. No.
I would always, and like Quincy, our first dog, I remember at 4 weeks old, she was signed up. We had committed to purchasing her, and she was signed up for Puppy Essentials at McCann's to start at 10 weeks, of course, not to start at 4 weeks because she didn't even come home until 8 weeks. But like, we had that plan in place, and it was probably the wrong breed to start with, but I should have started with, something a little bit easier than a Rottweiler. But having said that, we managed.
Right.
And
and you did all the right things.
Because,
yes.
We were also a family that had people who were willing to go the whole distance to educate this dog.
Because your whole family came. I remember your whole family came to classes to learn.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I was the lucky one that got to actually handle Quincy because that's just the way things worked out. And of course, I mean, now I just know it was fate because it turned into this. And 25 years later, I'm sitting here talking about dogs with my favorite Swan.
So having the whole family on board is also
it's part of the prep.
Part of the prep. Yes.
It.
So even if you have a family member who's not thrilled, at least discussing your plans and getting them to do the same things you are.
Exactly.
So the puppy has consistency.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is so important. We see a lot of families that we have to do sort of like a little bit of an intervention therapy with, where we have to say, you know what, this is not about you. It's not about any single one person in this family. Maybe there's... not picking on the son in the family, but maybe there's a son that says, no, I want to wrestle really hard with this puppy and I don't want to teach him any rules because I don't want a dog that's a robot and. And, why not have the best of both worlds, right? First off, training does not make dogs robots.
No,
that's one of
dogs
the
make mistakes.
Silliest fallacies that there are. Nothing makes anything a robot. We want to be able to communicate with our dogs. Training brings so many brilliant things to the surface with our dogs. We get to communicate with them. We get to understand them on a level that's accurate, not presumption, right? Not assuming that my dog is being spiteful from this thing, but actually knowing why he's doing this thing and how to help him move through that thing and to a safer spot on the other side if it's something I don't want him to do.
Right.
If I'm training my dog and I can do that and I can help him understand, that's going to strengthen our relationship, right?
Yes.
All of those things. And honestly, there is nothing that I can compare to the relationship I have with my trained dogs. Like, it is spectacular. And we get to wrestle hard. Like, just talking about Levon, right? I'm sure there's some people out there that are thinking like, isn't that bad to wrestle hard with your dog and to tug hard with your dog? Well, no, if you have it under control and you have it, set to the dog understanding where the limitations are, set to the dog understanding that they can't start the game and end the game without your consent, that sort of thing. Like, those are such powerful things to be able to now engage with Levon in a way that I know he loves. Again, that's strengthening our relationship, right? If I was just trying to suppress that behavior constantly, it would be working against our relationship, because inevitably we're butting heads, right? He's saying, I really want to wrestle hard because that's what makes me happy. And I'm saying, I don't want you to wrestle hard because it just doesn't make me happy. I mean, not that I have to kowtow to everything my dog wants,
right?
But if I have a way of controlling that thing and saying, okay, you can wrestle hard, but you can't bite me. Right. You can wrestle hard, but you can wrestle hard with me when I say playtime or when I say get it if I have a toy, but you can't just do that to random guests that come into my house unless they also say, you know, I'm going to get you and start this rough game with him, in which case I'm going to educate my guest in what is acceptable and what's not.
Like
and
I wouldn't expect to go to your house in the winter and be taking off my scarf, and suddenly Ned jumps up and starts wildly playing tug with me with my scarf. It's the last thing I would expect to happen. But
I can just picture Swanee and her scarf being flung around the room.
But that could happen with an untrained dog.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. So anyways, I kind of got off course there a little bit. So we're not making the dog a robot, and you can have everything you want with your dog. You need to put systems in place so the dog understands. But here's the thing. When you are raising a puppy, it is not about you in that situation and what you want to do. It's what's best for the puppy and what's easiest for the puppy to learn to be able to live in our world. Because otherwise, you're just being confusing, right? If one person in the family allows this and one person in the family says, absolutely not, you can't do that. If the puppy gets in trouble over here for doing it and then gets to party with it over here, that's a really confusing thing.
Right.
And we're creating a dog now that's going to be mistrustful of us, that is going to question, that is probably going to continue to exhibit bad behavior in all of those scenarios, because over here it's okay, and especially if it's reinforcing, right? So in the case of wrestling, if one person was allowing Levon to wrestle over here without rules, and then I'm trying to stop him over here, it's so rewarding for him to do over here. Why on earth would he want to stop over here, right? Yes. And then it bleeds into everything. So if I put it under stimulus control and I teach him how to do it on command and within confines of rules, I can have that wrestle party crazy without damaging him, without damaging our relationship. And then Great Aunt Ida never has to say, let's play really rough, Levon, because Levon's not going to say to Great Aunt Ida, I really want to play rough with you, as long as I'm consistent in those rules.
Yes. Our dogs can be so rewarding, but so many people, they're a source of frustration for. Many students will say, I'm just so frustrated. And when you talk to them, there's just so many inconsistencies. They're allowing the dog so many freedoms. And so it's so important to start off on that right foot and have consistency, have a training plan. It's just, you don't want that frustration with your dog. They're going to be around for 15 years.
Absolutely. And let's just talk for a minute. A lot of the times I think people are really worried that putting boundaries and restrictions and rules and limitations on freedom, a lot of times I think people think that is going to be damaging to their relationship with their dogs. What do you think about that?
That's not true. Dogs love bossy people.
You're a bossy person. That's funny.
Right. Now, they don't like people, they don't like bossy people who are bossing all the other people around, but dogs like their person to be their boss.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Most dogs would much rather just chill like Honda's doing on the couch right now. And
when honestly, I get up, he knows it's time we're leaving.
As a lover of dogs and as a good leader and a professional dog trainer, I want my dog to have the best life they possibly can. I want my dog to be confident and content in every situation. I want my dog to know that nothing falls on them. They don't need to take care of anything other than enjoying their life.
Right.
And that means I need to sometimes be what I would call the big heavy who says, you know what? You need to be in your crate right now. The big cheese.
Yep.
I need to be the big heavy that says you can't have freedom right now because you won't do good things with it, and I need to go work for a few hours.
And we need to keep our emotions in check.
You got it.
So many people will say, oh, I feel so guilty and bad. But no, we can't feel like that. We can't let our emotions come before the welfare of the puppy.
Absolutely. And when your child gets in the car and doesn't want to put on their seatbelt, do you let your emotions cloud your judgment and say, okay, you can ride loose because I feel guilty?
Right.
You know better. You know that the most important thing is your child's safety, and it doesn't matter if they're going, I don't like this seatbelt. Too bad.
Right.
You need to wear that seatbelt. That's all there is. At the puppy protests, I don't want to be in the crate. Too bad. You have to be in that crate right now, because if you're out and about and I'm distracted, you might end up hurting yourself.
Yes.
And you might end up doing things in the house that are not appropriate. You might end up learning that there's two sets of rules in life.
Right.
There's so many reasons that I need to be the leader in this relationship.
Yes.
And that means setting boundaries.
Yeah, people often say, I had someone say to me last night, she doesn't like her crate. It was a young puppy. It's like,
I want to say too bad again. That seems too
it
callous.
does. Yes.
But
So we definitely had a good discussion, but it's not about it's not about what a baby wants.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not about what the toddler wants. It's not about. It's not even about what the teenager wants. A lot of the times,
exactly. Yes.
It's about saying, no, this is not appropriate.
Right.
This is not acceptable. I'm going to teach you better instead.
Right. Yes. Yes. But so many people will say, well, he doesn't like it. It's like, well, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, why? Like, what should that matter?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So don't use that as an excuse.
No.
You know what's best for your puppy, and you need to be tough and follow through. And it's emotionally hard. We know. We know. But we just know it's best for the puppy through our experience and through other dog trainers' experience. We know what's best for the puppy, and we know the outcomes, because we see the great dog at 2, and then we see the poor dog at 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yes.
Absolutely. And all too often, right? All too often. I wish everybody would start right at 8 weeks when they bring their puppy home, but unfortunately there's a lot of assumption that it's going to be easy, and that there doesn't need to be prior education, that things will just sort of fall in place as they go along. And nothing could be further from the truth. To really have a great relationship and a safe dog and the coolest dog on the block, because it does all the tricks and it listens well, and it knows how to come when it's called, and it knows how to walk nicely with you, there's nothing quite like that.
Yes.
That's
in
an
our
amazing thing.
Online program, we have every Wednesday in our online program, we have Wednesday wins, where we encourage our students to post good things that happen during the week.
Yeah.
And often the good things are compliments from strangers and neighbors.
Yeah.
People will say, I was out walking my dog today, and somebody I didn't know stopped me and complimented me.
Yeah.
Or the vet said, wow, your dog is the best husky we've seen.
Yes.
And
we had no problem administering those vaccinations, et cetera, because you've done a little bit of work.
Right. Yes.
Which is great. And it really, truly is fun work. I love puppy training.
Right.
I love it. I love watching the evolution of the chaotic brain that is the puppy brain, that just kind of goes spastic all over the place and doesn't really know where to put its energy. I love watching that brain sort of start to come together and form into a personality, and then form into a willing teammate. And that's where I would say Levon is at right now. He's hitting adolescence. Like, there's no question in my mind that
I did see him out smoking behind the shed.
That's him. There's no question in my mind, though, that mentally, like, he's starting to get more bold about being further away from me. He's starting to get more sucked into sniffs, like just random smells. Last night, actually, as I was walking him for his final walk of the evening to have him poop. He had a lovely poop. Yeah, you all know. But there was a smell somewhere on the property that I could tell he was really, really excited about. So whether it was cat pee that he had found, or maybe it was coyote urine, like it was obviously an intense smell, and I could tell by his body language and by his commitment to it. And I thought, he's changed. He's growing up. And so I thought, okay, great training opportunity. I'm going to go in close and work my response to name away from it. And he actually did great, which, I mean, not actually, I shouldn't say that. I've worked really hard with him since he came home, so I'm not surprised that he's doing great. But I am ready at this point for that teenage head to start getting more distracted. And it's not that he is going to be, giving me the paw or anything like that, because he's now a teenager and he is smoking behind buildings and wearing leather jackets. It's that
he got a tattoo too.
Yeah, he got a tattoo. It's that his body and his mind are changing because he's developing.
Yeah,
so
and
now
hormones are at play, just like in humans. In humans. in human teens.
That was a good word. I like
The
those.
humans.
The humans are surfacing.
That's going to be the new
That's
word.
going to be our band name.
Or
the humans.
Yeah, and they're going to put it in the dictionary too. Next year, you guys will hear that the new word added to the Merriam-Webster dictionary is the human.
The humans. They can trace the origins back to the podcast
Yes.
on McCann Dogs. Oh my gosh, that's funny. So I'm empathetic to what he's going through in terms of development. And I'm watching for all of those changes to start messing with his head a little bit more. And I am working hard still on our foundation skills to make sure
You're ready and
that
prepared.
those humans
Yes.
do not
They're the worst.
interfere with his understanding of what the rules are, that you always have to turn on your name, that you always have to be responsive to me, that you don't get to ignore me ever.
Right.
Like this is not something that is an option for you. And it would seem very easy to think that all that puppy training that I did set me up for life. But it's just like having a human, a child, right? Where you got that development period through their very youthful toddler age. And then they develop into these adolescents, and you're dealing with different things there, and you're working through that development there. I'm not really going to see the final version of Levon until he's minimum 18 months.
Yes.
And it might even be older, a little bit later than that. So I'm always going to be sort of rolling through these development periods until he hits that age and adjusting my training a little bit to suit it.
Yes.
But it is definitely, at this point, it's like the foundation is there.
Right.
And all I need to do is keep building the value and keep building the understanding that it doesn't matter how much you change and how much that changes the environment around you and what you're interested in. The rules are still the same.
Right.
So now it's like this proofing sort of stage.
I like to look at the adolescence period as it's a further training opportunity to solidify everything.
Yeah, it is.
So I know some people worry about it. They go, oh, what's going to happen? But you know what? I like the teenage stage because you have enough foundation.
Yeah, me too.
And you're doing some fine tuning, and you're starting to see what drives your dog and what they like.
Yeah.
So I find adolescent is an exciting time because
Yeah.
that's when I'm
I
really
agree.
starting to get my dog, and all those training opportunities that I'm getting are solidifying my skills.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's not something to worry about.
No, the only time I would worry about it is if I had a dog with no training. If
Oh,
I had
yes,
a dog that I
yes.
did not have the foundation on already, and sometimes this might happen,
Right? You adopt a dog
you
a
might
bit
adopt
older.
a dog a little bit older. Just be prepared that this is probably going to be a little bit harder. And if you have a dog that you have neglected their training and now you're starting to see adolescence rear its head, be aware that there's no time like now to start.
Right.
Start yesterday, but start.
Yes.
Get started, get training, get through all of the messy part that is inevitably going to be there. Whether you've built your foundation or not, there's going to be some mess. It's
Right.
just it's a matter of how much mess, right? It's a matter of this dog has, he's 7 months old, so 5 months now of solid training with me. Oh my gosh, that seems like so little. Wow. I feel like he's been in my life
Right.
forever. Like I truly
I know,
can't
I can't
remember
remember.
life before Levon.
Yes.
It's like that with all your dogs
Yes,
though, right?
it
After
does,
a couple
yes.
of weeks, you're like, oh, this new routine has set in.
Yep.
And now I can't really remember my life before this new routine.
Right, yes.
But yeah, at that point, his foundation is solid. Things are going to go well. But if I hadn't had that foundation in place, I would be struggling a lot right now because he literally is a bouncing little jumping bean. And I love that.
Yes.
I love that. And it's quite well controlled at this point. And he's no longer this, impulsive puppy that his brain just goes, bah! But he's now an adolescent dog where his brain is starting to go, bah, in different ways. But we're ready for that.
Right, yes.
The foundation is solid.
Right. So you're pleased with everything you've done.
So pleased.
Yes.
So pleased.
And it's worth all the work, isn't it?
It's worth every single second of work because this result is absolutely incredible and amazing. And like I said, I cannot put into words. I have tried so many times over the 25 years I've been in dogs. I have tried to put into words what it is like to have a relationship with a dog that you actually can communicate with because they understand you and you understand them.
Right.
And you have to know it before you can
Yes, you have to
before you
experience
can
it.
articulate
Yes,
it.
yes.
You just have to experience it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel bad for people who have never experienced it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, because it's like you can have a dog, but then you can have a well-trained, educated, like best friend.
Yes.
And it's,
That's a good way to put it, the bestie.
Right, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It truly is second to none. I mean, I have never owned a dog that I have not had trained to an extreme level, but I just can't imagine. Right. I can't imagine living in that like chaotic puppy brain state for the entirety of the dog's life because you can't break through that barrier to communicate with them.
Yes.
Like it truly is something entirely all on its own.
So you don't want to take the easy way out.
No.
People often want to sacrifice, is it temporary comfort and avoid the further gain? Or like you sacrifice
the temporary gains or something like that. Temporary gains.
Temporary gain, or you sacrifice permanent gains for temporary comfort. That's maybe how the saying goes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's a really good thing to think about because we would never do that with our kids, right?
No.
Even if we don't send them off into public education system or private education system, we would homeschool, right? We would always give them the tools they would need to live in society. And our dogs should be no different. We need to give them, it's different tools. They're definitely different tools and different ways of getting to those tools. Right. But so important for that dog's life.
Even if it's not like schooling, like, you know, we teach our kids the basics of cooking. You know, I taught Ty the basics of finances, of, you know,
a good one.
How to use a credit card, you know, not overspending your budget. You know, you teach them those basics in life. And that's what we need to do with our puppies. We're teaching them the basics.
Absolutely.
So that they can survive.
Yeah. Absolutely. And survive well, not just survive, but thrive in our lives.
Yes.
But at a very minimum, we want to keep them safe.
Right.
But I want everybody to experience that relationship. And I hope you all do.
Yes.
On that note, I'm Instructor Shannon.
Instructor Swanee.
Happy training.
The mechanic